Okay, perfect. Welcome. I am Miss Kim. I'm the Curator of Education here at the museum, and we are recording our first afternoon art club. So I want to start out our afternoon art club by going over just a couple of things that you're going to need to know for being a part of afternoon art club. So some of you might be familiar with Zoom. That's the program we're using right now. And if you are familiar with Zoom, that's great. But if you're not familiar, there's a couple of things that you're going to need to know how to use in Zoom for our meeting. So the first thing that you're going to need to know is if you look down on the very bottom of your Zoom screen, you're going to see a few things that you're going to need to know. So all the way to the bottom left, there's a little microphone that says mute or unmute. It might not be visible to you right now because I have everybody muted, so you may not be able to see that mute or unmute button yet. But at the very end, when I stop recording, you will be able to mute or unmute yourself to talk if you need to. Now, the other thing that I want to show you is our chat icon. Down at the very bottom, kind of in the middle, there is a button that says chat, and it has a little text bubble. If you click on that, our chat screen is going to come up. And that is a great place for you to ask questions during our session. So if you have a grown-up there with you that can help you type if you need some assistance, or if you can type right into that box, I'm going to type hi there, and you should probably be able to see it if you click on the chat icon. So that's a great place for you if you're having, if you have a question while I'm talking that you would like me to stop and answer, you can put it right there in our chat box. The chat box will not be visible in the recording. So again, nobody will see your name, nobody will see the question that you asked in the recording. I'll be able to see it and answer it there. So just so you know, for safety and security. All right, so you can say hello to me in the chat box. If you're in the chat box, you can say hi. You just type hi so that I'll know that you're there and are able to see what we're doing. Right now, everybody's got their screens off, and that's totally fine. You can keep your screen off if you would like, or you can make it so that I can see you, either one, but I'm happy for you to do whatever you're comfortable with. Oh, I see some hellos. That's great to see. Very good. All right. So I've talked to you already about our chat box, how to mute and unmute when it's time at the very end. Remember, I'll stop the recording, and then you'll be able to unmute yourself if you have a question or want to talk with me. So that's the appropriate time for that. The other things I want to talk to you about are our ground rules for Afternoon Art Club, and we'll only go over this time unless we need to talk about it in the future. But we have two big ground rules, and that is that I'm going to ask you to be respectful and to be kind. Now, those are two pretty easy things to do in a Zoom class, and especially today, because I'm going to be doing a lot of the talking. But you may have in the coming weeks the opportunity to take a look at some of our peers' artwork. So you may be able to show us your artwork, and us, your friends here in Afternoon Art Club, be able to give you some feedback on your artwork. And I want us to make sure that we're being really nice to each other, and that we are saying positive things about each other's artworks and giving feedback that's helpful. So please make sure that you're being kind and being respectful. So those are our two biggies. And now that we've gone over all that, we are ready to get started. So I am going to share my screen with you. I'm going to share a little PowerPoint, and we're going to talk a little bit about one-point perspective. Now, if you've ever done one-point perspective before, or you know what perspective drawing is, you can tell me that in the chat box. I'd love to know if it's something that you've done before. But if it's something that's completely new to you, I'm going to be telling you a little bit about that today. So the first thing I'm going to do is share my screen. So I'm going to just bear with me here. I'm going to share my screen, which means you should be able to see my PowerPoint presentation. Now I can still see your chat box, and if you, okay, I see that some people have I don't see anybody so far that has done perspective drawing, which means it's probably something that's brand new to everyone. So you should be able to see my screen right now. What you should see on your screen is something that says perspective drawing, afternoon art club, 1st through 3rd grade. If you cannot see that, you can tell me that in the chat box, but I'm assuming that you can see it. So let's talk a little bit about perspective drawing, what it is and how to do it. So that's what we're going to be doing today, talking about what perspective drawing is and how to do it. So first of all, let's go here. All right, so what is perspective drawing? What is it? It's something that you may or may not have done before. So let's talk about what perspective drawing is. Perspective drawing is a way of drawing that makes your drawings look like they're going back into space. So it kind of makes it look like a three-dimensional drawing, or something that's in 3D, but on a sheet of paper. So I'm going to be teaching you how to make your drawings look like they're three-dimensional, even though it's on a flat sheet of paper. Now, when we're doing perspective drawing, you need to know two important things. The first thing, and these are kind of vocabulary words that we're going to be using a lot. So the first word that you need to make sure that you know is a word called, or two words, called horizon line. Now the horizon line is where the land or the sky meets the land. So if you're looking outside, if you were just to step outside and look out over a field, and you were to see the sky, and then you were to see the land, the place where the sky and the land meet is the horizon line. That's called the horizon line. And we can draw that on our paper. So we'll be drawing a horizon line today. You can also find horizon lines in any landscape painting or drawing or artwork that you look at. That's kind of a fun practice to, it's kind of fun to look at a landscape painting or drawing and look for the horizon line. So we're going to do that today. We're going to look at some examples today where we can see the horizon line. So that's our first vocabulary word. And our second vocabulary word is called the vanishing point. Now these are kind of big words, but the vanishing point is the point on the horizon line where all of our lines are going to meet. Now that might sound a little confusing right now, but we're going to look at some images that will help us understand these two vocabulary words. So we're going to take a look at some images that are going to show these two vocabulary words. Someone asked, are we going to be drawing or painting? Today we're going to be drawing. So the first step in this artwork that we're going to make is drawing, and we're going to practice doing some of that drawing together. And then the second step that we're going to be doing today will be or that we're going to be doing in the coming weeks, we'll be adding color. And you can do that with crayon or colored pencil or paint. However you want to add color is completely up to you. But the first step that we're practicing today will be drawing. That's a very good question. All right, so let's move on. So the type of perspective drawing we're going to be doing is called one-point perspective. And the reason it's called that is because we are going to have one vanishing point. And that vanishing point is going to be on the horizon line. Now again, we're going to look at some examples of this. So if you're a little confused, just hang on and we'll look at some examples together. All the lines in our drawing that we want to make it look like it's three-dimensional, all of those lines are going to meet at the vanishing point. So let's look at some examples of that. Right here. This is what we call an etching. It's not a painting, it's kind of like a drawing, but it's a type of print making. So the example that you're looking at right now is an etching by an artist named Alfred Huddy. Now Alfred Huddy lived in the early 1900s and he liked to create etchings, so that's what we're looking at right now, an etching. Now, the two vocabulary words that we've talked about so far were horizon line and our red line right here is the horizon line. So you can imagine that if the sky, if these buildings weren't in the way, the sky would come all the way down to about right where that red line is. And the road right here goes all the way up to about where that red line is. So where the sky and the ground meet is the horizon line. So that red line that you're looking at is the horizon line. Now our vanishing point is where all the lines in our drawing that make it look like it's going back into space or make it look like it's three-dimensional, that's where they meet. So you can see that these purple lines show us lines that are going back. It makes our road look like it's three-dimensional, and they're all meeting right at that point. Oops, my computer flipped on me. There we go. Okay, so where those purple lines meet would be our vanishing point. Now, I want you to think about this for a minute. If you were to go outside and you were to look down your street, as far down your street as you could look, if you look down your street, from where you're standing, the road is going to look like it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller the farther it gets away from you. And that is just, it's the way that our eyes perceive things that are far away. Things that are far away look like they're smaller than things that are close to us. You can see that in the computer. When my hand is close to the camera, it looks a lot bigger than when it's way back here near me. So we're just trying to capture that on paper. So let's take a look at this, the same etching without those lines. So here we can look at the street, and it looks like the street is getting smaller as it gets farther away from us. You can see how the things farther away look smaller. And that's what perspective drawing helps us do. Let's look at another example that's a painting. This is a painting by an artist named William Henry Johnson. Now, William Henry Johnson is very, very important to us here at the Florence County Museum. He's personally one of my favorite artists. I love talking about William Henry Johnson. He was born right here in Florence, South Carolina in 1901. If he were still alive today, he would be 119 years old. Now, this painting that we're looking at uses perspective to make it look like this painting is three-dimensional, like it's going back into space. So let's take a look. Remember, we need two things for a perspective drawing. We need a horizon line and a vanishing point. So remember, the horizon line is where the sky meets the land. So if we follow the sky down, 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 so the last thing we can see of the sky is about here, but it looks like the road ends about here. And then if we follow the road, the land all the way up until we get to the sky, bam, right there, right where our horizon line is. So that red line shows us our horizon line. And William Henry Johnson, even though he has these curvy streets, these aren't straight lines, you can see that they kind of follow the path to this point right there, almost to the door of this building in the back. And this side of the road as well. If we follow that line, it takes us back to about right here. So this is our vanishing point. That's what we call our vanishing point, where those lines meet up. That is our vanishing point. So we've seen two different examples of one-point perspective being used in artwork. We're going to look at one more example before we get started doing some of our own perspective drawing today. Remember, and for those of you who have just come in, you have a chat icon at the very bottom of your Zoom screen. It looks like a little text bubble. If you click on that, you can see where you can type in questions that you may have. So if you have a question, You can either type in to the chat box or have your grown-up that's nearby help you type into the chat box any questions that you have. At the very end of our session, oops, I'm making stuff happen here. Okay, at the very end of our session, you will be able to ask questions with your voice once I've stopped the recording. All right, so let's take a look right here. You take a look at this artwork by an artist named Elizabeth O'Neill Verner. Now, Elizabeth O'Neill Verner was also an artist who created etchings in the early 1900s. Now, this etching is called, the name of this artwork is called St. Michael's Church. That's what this building right here in the background is. That's St. Michael's Church. But I want you to take a look and see if you can figure out where the horizon line might be. Remember, the horizon line is where the land meets the sky. So if you can imagine the sky is coming from here, we know this area is sky, it's coming down, probably the sky is ending about right here. And if we follow the land up, this is a sidewalk, if we follow it up to where it meets the sky, we end up right about there. So probably, I'm thinking the horizon line might be right about here. All right, now, if we're taking a look at what lines go back into space and where those lines meet, if we follow the lines of the sidewalk, this diagonal line takes us back to about where this lady is standing. We can do the same thing on this side, follow it back about where this lady is standing. All these lines of the sidewalk, we can follow them, and they all take us about to where this lady is standing. So where she is probably right about our vanishing point. Let's look at that. Here we go. So if we follow those lines, that red line is about our horizon line, and these lines all sort of meet right about here, just to the right of where this lady is standing. So that would be our vanishing point, okay? So all of this, when we're taking a look at drawings and paintings, if we want something to look three-dimensional or look like it's going back into space, we can use one-point perspective. Now, we're gonna do some practice now. So if you, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so you can see my face again. All right, hold on a second. Can you see me? Hold on, all right. All right, can everybody see me? Okay, so now that I'm no longer sharing my screen, I got a yes, so that's good. I would like you to find this sheet. If you got a packet from us, if you got a packet from the museum, then you have this sheet in your packet. If you did not get a packet from us, I did email this sheet to your grown-up to print if they were able to. But if they were not able to print the sheet, I'm going to show you how to make it yourself. And we're going to go through this and practice drawing with one-point perspective. So we're going to do some practice drawing first, and then we are going to start the artwork that we're going to be working on for the whole month of October. And the artwork that we're going to be working on for the whole month of October is going to be a perspective drawing, which we will add color to later, that is of a little farm scene. So let me show you. Here we are. You can see the rows of my farm right here. This is a sunshine. The rays of the sun. This might be a sunrise on my farm. And I've also drawn a little barn. That's going to be optional, so you can draw that if you want or not. But I'm going to show you how to do all of that, so you don't have to be worried that you can't do it, because I know you can do it. It looks difficult, but it's actually really simple. So I'm going to take you through that process today, and I would like to share my screen again with you, but I'm going to share a different screen. I'm going to share a camera that's looking down on my tabletop so that you can see exactly what I'm drawing. So here we go. Let me share again. I'm going to share another screen. It's thinking about it. Let's see. See if it's going to do it. Here we go. All right. I think that it is sharing with you. So you should be able to see my desktop, and you should actually be able to see my little farm drawing that I have right here. I'm gonna go ahead and pull back up, my chat box went away, so I'm pulling that back up so that we're all together again here. All right, so now, very good. Okay, now we are going to start by doing our practice sheet. I got a bunch of stuff on my desktop here, so let me arrange that. We're going to start by doing a practice sheet together. So grab this sheet if you have it. If you don't have it, I'm going to show you really, really quickly how to make this sheet, just for those of you who don't have the sheet. But also, you can make your own of these to practice on your own at home. So once you do this one, if you feel like you need some more practice, you can make your own practice sheet just like this. And for those of you who are just coming in, if you've missed the whole first part of my presentation, that's okay. This whole session is being recorded and you can watch it starting tomorrow at lunchtime. You can watch it as much as you want to watch it. And that's good for everybody, really, because if you're confused about something or you feel like you've watched me do this, but you want to watch me again and see, just to remind you what you're supposed to be doing, you can watch this as many times as you need to watch it to help you remember exactly what to do. So let me show you how to make this sheet really quickly. If you're making your own practice sheet, and this will be good for everyone really, so that you know how to make your own, you're going to start out first by drawing a horizontal line on your paper. And this will be our horizon line. Now you can write that on here. I always like to write it on my practice sheet to help me remember my vocabulary words, but also to help me keep track of what I'm doing. So horizon line. So I just made a little label there, labeled that horizon line. And then you're going to want to put your vanishing point on your horizon line. That's really important. Your vanishing point is always, always, always on your horizon line. So I'm going to put that here, and I'm going to label that too, just because it helps me keep track. Vanishing point. Okay. So now I have drawn my horizon line and my vanishing point, and I've labeled them because those are the two most important things with perspective drawing, and I want to make sure that I remember them. If I'm making my own practice sheet, now all I have to do is draw some shapes on my paper. If you take a look at this one, I have a square and a triangle and a rectangle and a star. On this one, for our purposes today, we're going to be doing a triangle and a square. I'm going to do these with you. We're going to do these together, and then I'm going to let you do the rectangle and the square on your own for practice later on. So today, together, we're going to do the triangle and the square, and then later on your own, you're going to do the rectangle and the star. So if you're making your own practice sheet, this is all you have to do. You just do a horizontal line for your horizon line, a vanishing point, and a triangle and a square. And you could draw as many shapes as you want on here. You don't have to stick with the shapes that I've chosen. You could try some really complicated shapes. The star is a tricky one. That's why I put it on there, just for one really good challenge for those of you who may already know how to do perspective drawing. But we're going to start simple with a triangle and a square. All right, so I'm going to go back to my sheet of paper. I'm going to go back to this one, and we're going to do this together. And let me show you what it's going to kind of look like when we're done. I have drawn all of these shapes going back into space in 1-point perspective. This is one that's finished, so you can kind of see what it's supposed to look like. Now, this right here, and I've kept some of my extra drawing lines that I have here, but these kind of look like three-dimensional forms now. In this one, this is just a shape. It just looks like a square. But when we use 1-point perspective, we can make it look like a cube or a pyramid or a rectangular cube. So we start using 1-point perspective can help us make our drawings look like they're 3-dimensional. So let's go back to our practice sheet here. And the things that you're going to need to do this activity are a ruler. So if you got a kit from us, it has a ruler in it. Today I'm just using this ruler. That's what I had at my desk. You're going to need a pencil. And it's helpful if your pencil has an eraser. This one doesn't, so I'm going to get an extra. If your pencil doesn't have an eraser, or even just a handy thing to have is an extra eraser, I always have this at my desk. I make a lot of mistakes, so I always need to erase. Okay, so all you need is your ruler and your pencil and your practice sheet. Now, to make 3-dimensional shapes using 1-point perspective, we just have to learn how to line up our ruler and our shapes and draw lines. So what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to start with my square, because that's the simplest one to me. So I'm starting with my square, and I'm just going to find the point, the corner point of my shape that's closest to the vanishing point. It's always easiest to start with the one that's closest to the vanishing point. So I'm going to start with this point right here, and I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm going to line my ruler up on the point of the square, just right there, and on my vanishing point, okay? So see, I'm connecting with my ruler. Take your time and get it accurate. I'm connecting with my ruler, this point, and my vanishing point right here. So I'm just going to take my ruler and I'm going to make a line between the corner of my square and the vanishing point, just like that. So now I just have a line. Now I want to show you a little trick that helps you line it up. When I'm lining things up with the vanishing point, I like to put my pencil tip on the corner of my shape, and then when I move my ruler over, my pencil tip stops it so that it's in the right place, and I just hold my pencil there, and then I kind of move my ruler so that it's lined up both with my pencil tip and with the vanishing point right up here. All right, so now I'm going to make another line, just like that. So now I've lined up my top left-hand corner of my cube to the vanishing point, the bottom left-hand corner of my cube or my square with the vanishing point. I'm going to do this corner now, over here. I'm going to line it up. I'm going to put my pencil point there. Then I'm going to bring my ruler till it stops. And I'm going to make sure it's connecting to the vanishing point. It's lined up over here. And I'm going to draw a line. Now, all I've done is draw 3 lines, but already this looks 3-dimensional. Those are just 3 simple lines that have turned my square into a cube. So that's really simple to do, but I've already turned my shape into something that's 3-dimensional. Now, there's one more corner of our square that we could connect to the vanishing point. So I could connect this one to the vanishing point, but I'm not going to, and let me tell you why. If this cube is a solid form, let's pretend that it's nice and solid, it's not see-through, then we would not be able to see this line going to the vanishing point. If we were to draw this line, it would make it look like our box was kind of clear. So we could connect it, but we don't have a see-through box here. We're not pretending our box is see-through. We want it to be a solid form. So we're not going to connect this one. So the way that we know whether or not to connect our form is when we put our pencil point there and we connect it to the vanishing point. If we have to draw through our shape, we don't draw that line, okay? So because I'm gonna have to draw through my square, I know I don't draw that line, okay? So it's that easy. Now, you can keep connecting these points on your different shapes to the vanishing point to create a 3D shape. Hold on, I just dropped something. Okay. Sorry about that. All right, now let's practice doing the same thing with our triangle. Let's practice that. So remember, just like with our square, I want to find the point that's the closest to the vanishing point. The closest thing to the vanishing point is the easiest to start with. So I like to put my pencil tip on that corner that I'm using and wait till the ruler hits it. And then I want to line that up with the vanishing point, just like that. And then I'm going to draw that line, just like that. All right, now we're going to do the next one. I can choose either point. It doesn't matter which one I choose next. I'm going to choose this one. I'm going to put my pencil point there and let the ruler hit my pencil point. And then I'm going to line it up with the vanishing point and draw a line, just like that. And last but not least, I'm going to come up here to that top corner. And I'm going to draw that line, connecting it to the vanishing point. And now it looks like my triangle is three-dimensional, going back into space. Now, when you're working through these this week on your own, I'm going to let you practice the rectangle and the star on your own. Just remember, start with the point that is closest to the vanishing point and connect that one, and then connect your other points. And when you're working on this star, because this is the tricky one, when you're working on the star, remember, you don't have to draw a line for any point that you would draw through the middle of your shape. So for example, this point down here, if I were to connect that to the vanishing point, I would have to draw through my star. See, that would make a line inside my star. So I don't need to draw that line. That's how we know which lines we draw and which lines we don't draw. Okay, so that's our practice sheet. We've done these three together. If you have a question about anything, you're welcome to type that into our chat box. But I will give you a chance to ask questions at the end as well. So you can either type it in the chat box if you have a question, or you can put it, you can wait till the end and you can ask just by speaking to me at the very end. Okay, so our practice sheet is finished. Now remember, if you need to watch this again, if you need to see again how we did this, I will be sending the video of this lesson to you tomorrow. So you will get the video of the lesson tomorrow and you will be able to watch it as many times as you want if you need to see that again. So don't worry. All right, now I want to start on our drawing that we're going to do together. So in order to do that, you're going to need to gather a few supplies. You're going to need a white sheet of paper. So you're just going to need one white sheet of paper. You're going to need a pencil, and you're going to need a ruler. And if you have an extra eraser, that might be helpful, but you don't have to have that. The pencil that you have, if it has an eraser, then you're in good shape. Okay? So what we're going to do first is start out by finding the two things that we absolutely have to have in a perspective drawing. We have to have a horizon line, and we have to have a vanishing point. So we're going to start out by finding those things. So if you have your sheet of paper, you can either work along with me, so you can be working while I'm working here. You can work along with me, or you can work, you can just watch right now and then do this again later as you're watching the video. So either way, if you would rather just watch me now, you can, or you can work along with me. So the first step that we're going to do is to draw a horizon line. Now, what I like to do in this project when I'm trying to draw a horizon line is find about the middle of the paper. It doesn't have to be exactly the middle of the paper. And I like to go just a little bit up. Now you'll notice I'm not at the top of my paper. I'm just a little bit up from the center. So you're just going to find the center of your paper, then go a little bit up from that. Another way that you can find the center of your paper, if you want to do this, is just to fold your paper in half the long way, just like this, and that's the middle, right? Now we have a line that shows us what the middle is, and then I can just put my ruler kind of on that line, put my bottom of the ruler on that line, and then draw the line at the top of the ruler, and it's a little bit above halfway. So that's an easy way to find it. You can fold your paper in half, just like that, and then I put the bottom of my ruler on the halfway point, and then I drew the line at the top of my ruler. So that's an easy way to do it. Okay, so now I have a horizon line, right? Everybody's with me so far. We have a horizon line. The next thing we need to find is our vanishing point. And for this project, your vanishing point is up to you. You can put your vanishing point right in the middle. You can put it over to the left a little bit or over to the right a little bit. That's completely up to you. Now, I will say it's probably not a good idea to put your vanishing point all the way to the right or all the way to the left. You should keep it kind of in the middle, but anywhere in that middle section is just fine. Let me show you what I mean. In this one, for example, the middle of my paper is about right here, but I chose to put my vanishing point a little bit over to the right. You'll notice it's not all the way to the edge, but it's just a little bit to the right of center. So in this one, I think I'm going to put mine a little bit to the left, just so it's a little different, just like that. Okay? So I have two things that I needed. I have my horizon line and I have my vanishing point. Okay? Those are the two big things we need, a horizon line and a vanishing point. Remember, this horizon line is where the sky comes down. This would be the end of the sky, and this all down here will be the land, okay? So just like in my practice drawing that I did, this whole area is the sky. That's where the sun and the sun rays are, and this whole area down here is the land, or the rows on my farm where my crops will go. Okay. So back to my drawing we're doing together. We have a horizon line and we have a vanishing point. Now the first thing I want to do is start putting down the lines of my rows of farmland. So this is a farm we're drawing, so we need those agricultural farming rows that you might see on a farm. So we're going to start that by getting our ruler. And I want to start by just lining up the corner of my paper down here on the bottom right. I'm just starting at the very corner of my paper, and I want to line the corner up with the vanishing point, just like that. So my vanishing point, my ruler is on my vanishing point and lined up with the corner of my paper. And I'm just going to make a line, just like that. So I have a line going from my vanishing point to the corner, to the right corner of my paper. Now I'm going to do the same exact thing with the left corner of my paper and the vanishing point. So I'm just going to line up my ruler with the corner and with the vanishing point, and I'm going to make a line just like that. You'll notice that my lines are not the same. That's because my vanishing point is not in the middle. So I have one line that's a little more steep than the other line, and that's just fine. That's actually just exactly right. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is I want to kind of try to find the middle of my paper. I'm not really worried about where my vanishing point is. I just want to find the middle of my paper. And I could do that by just kind of folding it in half this way, not creasing the whole thing, but just putting a little crease at the bottom, just like that. And that tells me about where the center is. You can kind of see my little crease right there. I didn't crease my whole paper, I just creased there. So I might want to do kind of a dot right there just to help me out. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to connect this little dot that I just made, or where my crease is, and I'm going to connect that to the vanishing point, just like this. So I line my ruler up with the vanishing point and with the dot I just made, and there we go. Right now it almost looks like a road going back into space, doesn't it? Like it could be a street. But we're going to turn this into farm rows, and the way that we're going to do that is by adding another line in between these two. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. I'm not measuring anything. I'm just going to kind of guesstimate about the middle between this point and this point, just somewhere around the middle. I'm just going to make a little dot or a little line, just like that. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to pick the middle between this one and that one. Just find the middle and make a little dot. It doesn't have to be perfect. If it's not perfect, that's totally fine. And now I'm just going to connect each of these dots to the vanishing point. So I'm going to take my ruler. I'm going to line it up on this bottom line, or bottom dot. And I'm going to line it up with the vanishing point, make sure that they both are lined up on the bottom dot and the vanishing point. I'm going to make a line, just like that. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Okay, so now you're starting to see your farm rows, just like we have down here. You're starting to see some of those rows. We got 4 rows right now that look like they're going back into space. Now, we want to add some rows on the side here. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to add 2 rows on this side and 3 on this side, because my space here is a little bit bigger. If you've put your vanishing point right in the middle, you could just do 2 and 2, or you could do just two on either side. It really doesn't matter. But what I'm going to do is just kind of pick 2 spots that are about evenly spaced. And I just made some dots. I just picked 2 spots. I wanted a little bit of space from here to here and a little bit of space from here to here, and just made those dots. And I'm going to connect those dots to the vanishing point. So from this point, this dot right here, to the vanishing point. And from this dot to the vanishing point. Okay, so there's my rows on the side. And I'm going to do the same thing over here, except for in this side I'm going to do 3, because I've got a little more space here. So to do 3, I can just find the halfway point. Halfway between here and here is about right here. You can go ahead and make that mark. Then halfway between the middle and the bottom is about here. And halfway between the middle and the horizon line is about here. So I just got 3 lines there. And I'm going to connect those to the vanishing point. You might notice a pattern. We're really just making lots of lines right now. If you get tired of making lines, let's say you've made all these lines and you're kind of tired of making lines, you can always take a break and come back to it later. That's the great thing about having this session videotaped, is you don't have to do it all at once. You can do a little bit of it and take a break, and do a little bit and take a break. But now I have all my farm rows drawn. All the land part of my drawing, just like this, is drawn. Okay, we're going to do one more thing before we go today. I know that we are right around the time that we're supposed to end, and we have about 5 more minutes of work to do. And if you have to go, then that's totally okay. You can watch the recording for the rest of it, but it will only take a few more minutes. Doing all the rules and introduction to Zoom took up a little time today. So now, the next thing we want to draw is the sun. So this could be a sunrise scene or a sunset scene, but here we have the sun on the horizon line. You can see that. And the sun is kind of centered over the vanishing point. So wherever your vanishing point is, you're going to make sort of a half circle sun. So I'm going to find my vanishing point, and I'm going to make a half circle sun. That's kind of in the middle of that. It doesn't have to be perfect. It could be kind of small or really big, depending on what time of the day it is. If it's almost dark, then the sun, there's very little sun left. But if it's just sort of the beginning of the sunset, then you're going to have more sun. So it could be small or it could be bigger than mine. Either way is fine. And now we're going to draw some rays of our sunshine. You can see my sunshine here has rays coming off of it. And here's how I like to do this. I like to kind of make a dot. This is not exact at all. We're not measuring anything. You're just kind of just guesstimating. We're going to make a dot kind of in the middle. You can see my dot kind of in the middle. And then I'm going to make 2 more dots kind of evenly spaced on my line, just like that. So enough, some space between the horizon line and this dot, some space between these 2 dots, some space between this dot and the center. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just make 2 more dots. If you want to make 3 dots, you could do that. However many sun rays you want to have, that's how many dots you need to make. So each one of these is going to be a ray of the sunshine. Everywhere I put a dot, I'm going to have a ray of sunshine. So here's what I'm going to do. Watch carefully. Hold on. Oh, excuse me. Okay. So in order to make my ray of sunshine, I don't want to put my rays in my circle shape. You'll notice how those lines don't go inside of my sunshine, only on the outside. So I'm going to line up my ruler with my first dot and the vanishing point. So on the first dot and on the vanishing point, you can see those dots here and here. And I'm going to start at the dot, and I'm going to go out toward the edge of the paper. I did not draw inside of my sun. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go to my next dot, and I'm going to line up my dot with the vanishing point. You could use my trick of putting your pencil point on the dot and then letting your ruler find that pencil point, just like that. But here's my dot, and here's my vanishing point. And I'm going to go out toward the edge of the paper, just like that. I'm going to do it again with the next dot. I find the dot, I line it up with the vanishing point, and I put my pencil there and go out toward the edge of the paper. I'm going to keep going with each one of my dots. I'm going to line them up, put my pencil point on the dot, go out toward the edge of the paper. This is my last one. Pencil point on the dot and out toward the edge of my paper. Okay, so now I have a farm scene. I have my farm rows, and I have my sunshine, and I have my rays of sunshine going up. And all of these lines would connect with my vanishing point. Every line I've drawn, other than this half circle, connects with the vanishing point. So here is what my goal is for you for next time we meet. So we're going to be meeting again in 2 weeks, not next Thursday, but the next Thursday. So let me tell you exactly when that will be. So that will be the 22nd, October the 22nd, we'll be meeting again. And when we meet on October 22nd, I would love it if you have drawn your horizon line, your vanishing point, your rows, your farm rows, and your sun rays, your sunshine and your sun rays. I would love to see you have this much done. Now remember, yours doesn't have to look exactly like mine. Your vanishing point might be in a different spot. The size of your sun might be bigger or smaller. You might have a few more rows of crops than I do. You might have a few more sun rays or fewer sun rays than I do, and that's totally fine. I want to see your artwork the way that you would like to create it, but I want to see you use 1 point perspective. So you got to use your ruler and you got to use your pencil. Now, if you got a kit from us at the museum, you have 3 different sheets of paper to practice this on. So if you do one and you don't think it looks very good, you can do it again. You can practice it again. I want to show you something. This is the one that I did for you guys, but guess what? Before I did this one, I started the one on the back and I kind of didn't like the way it looked. So I decided, oh, never mind. I'm going to flip it over and use the back. So you can do that. You can use the front or the back of your paper, and you can keep practicing. But next time on October 22nd, when we meet again, please have your drawing, one that you're happy with, so your kind of final drawing of your farm rows and your sunshine. Next time when we meet, we're going to be adding some details. We're going to be adding some crops. If you want to add a barn to your drawing, I'll show you how to do that next time. And I'm going to show you how to add color using either crayons or colored pencils or paint. So you can add any kind of color that you want, and I'm going to show you some different ways to do that next time as well. But for this next meeting, please have these things. I'm going to stop sharing my video or my table surface right now and share my face again. All right. So, boys and girls, I hope that you've had a good first afternoon art club. I've loved talking to each of you, and I hope that you've learned something today. I've got some weird shadows coming from my window. So I hope you've learned something today. I'm getting ready to stop the recording. So if you have any questions, I'll stop the recording and then you'll be able to ask me those questions, and I'll hang around here for as long as you need. So I'm going to stop the recording now.